Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kufis and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Men for the Win is sponsored by the Duran Group with Edina Realty. Are you looking to purchase a new home in the Twin Cities area? Or perhaps you're trying to sell your current home? Whether you're upsizing or downsizing, the Duran Group with Edina Realty will meet all of your housing needs. Contact the Duran Group by emailing the Gran, that's G-R-A-N, group, at edinarealty.com, or call them by phone at 612-817-8751. The Grand Group with Edina Realty, 7-time Minneapolis-St. Paul Magazine Super Agent Award winners. On this episode, Dan and Hoges recap the Twins' 3-game sweep of the Chicago White Sox. Thanks for listening. Enjoy. Thanks for tuning in to Men for the Win. I'm Dan Thompson. With me today is Andrew Hoganson, filling in for David Kufis. And I'm so glad, Andrew, you get to take part in this winning streak that has now reached 10 games. It has been a long time since the Twins have done this. Our children were not alive the last time the Twins had a streak this long. But does it mean the same thing, Hoges, when you play the White Sox and the Angels?
Maybe a little bit less. Like, I'm trying to temper my enthusiasm like David was talking about last week. But honestly, I was nervous because I knew I was going to record after this series, and I did not want to be the guy who came on to record right when the streak ended. So I'm really glad that they kept it going and they kept the sweep going. But yeah, 10 games is 10 games. I don't care if it's against the Angels and the White Sox. It maybe tempers it a little bit, but so what? Everyone was saying beforehand that they got to go 8-2, and that was like a lofty goal. Well, they went 10-0. We can be happy about that.
Incredible, the flip in the standings. So they're not in first place because of the AL Central. I guess everybody gets to play the White Sox.
Absolute juggernauts.
Well, it's the only division in baseball still that has 4 teams above 500. So we'll just go top down. Now, this is pending the Guardians game tonight here as we record, but the Guardians have a 19-10 record. The Royals 19-13. Tigers 18-13. Twins were 7-13. Now they're 17-13. And then the White Sox 6-25. And
it's just unreal.
We'll get into it in the games. They had chances to win these baseball games, and they gave them away.
I know we talk about how we're fans of well-played baseball. I'm not entirely sure I could say that with a straight face for this series. Like, I'll take the 10 wins, but man, especially today, like, there were just some ugly, ugly moments out there. Like, you just felt like the Twins were always in it because they were like, you know what? We're going to get to the 6th. They're going to have a bullpen guy come in who's got a 9.7 ERA, and they're going to kick the ball around a little bit. And next thing you know, we're going to win the game, which it's bad being in that frame of mind because now I just think we're going to win no matter what, but that matters. Momentum matters. Now this team has that confidence moving forward. I'm pumped.
Well, and they got Carlos Correa back, so they sent Austin Martin down. Another move that was kind of curious, I guess, on its face is that Kyle Funderburk was optioned to make room for Caleb Bushley, who I didn't recognize before. I guess it was because they wanted to, have some extra arms just in case things didn't go great for Simeon Woods Richardson. But like, what did you make of these choices here to send Martin down, to send Funderburk down?
I can't say I was terribly surprised, but it is a little irritating that you have these young guys that are playing well and we're not rewarding them. Like, we're sending them back down. Like, but they are going to be back. Like, we all know that they will be back at some point in this year. And I think they are mature enough to know that they did not get sent down because of performance. But it's just really frustrating when you got a guy like Manuel Margot who's just doing nothing up here. And Martin was like the only guy even touching the ball for a few weeks. And now all of a sudden he's getting set down. And Funderburk was doing great too. So I don't know. I don't like how the Twins have been handling this. But at the same time, we've all kind of had to eat dirt with Slamtana lately. So you never know. And again, he's still batting under 200. So we can't get too excited about this. But
well, that's a good segue into our series recap here.
Series recap.
Game 1, Hoges, the Twins win this game 3-2. A really exciting finish to this game. The White Sox actually get on the board right away. They start with 3 straight hits, score twice before Jhoan is able to work out of a jam. But then at the top of the second, Manny Margot walks. There's that guy you were talking about. And then Carlos Santana homers for the 4th time in his last 5 games. It seems that he's back, and that was all that the Twins got until the top of the 9th. When Buxton doubled, Kepler hit an RBI single. That was a trend throughout the series. Kepler coming up with some big hits and big spots. And I don't know. I mean, overall, like, a win is a win, right, against the White Sox. But I was like, 3-2? I don't know. That feels... I was getting greedy. I was like, is that enough? I want to beat this team like 7-0.
Well, and it was kind of a brutal game to watch a little bit. Like, it was just ugly. Like, Twins couldn't really get anything going. Even like Jhoan didn't look great on the mound. His numbers are pretty decent. He pitched 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, only 2 earned runs. But he didn't strike that many guys out, which was a little weird. It just seemed like, I don't know, it's not that powerful of a lineup. But this game was so indicative how the rest of the series went. The White Sox went up 2-0, which was a theme in every single game of this series. And yet, did you ever feel like they were in trouble?
I know. No, I didn't, because it was the White Sox. This was, they pointed this out in the middle of game 3, but the White Sox have now they've lost 11 games in which they've led. So it's not like this team isn't getting ahead now. Still, I mean, you would think they'd have more than 6 wins out of that. The Twins were able to get their bullpen almost back for this game. Stewart, Jackson, Thielbar, they come in for the 7th and 8th and the 9th. Thielbar gets his second save. Correa's back, but doesn't do a lot. He's 0 for 4 with a strikeout. And then we saw Christian Vasquez, the fleet-footed, steal another base. He's got 2 stolen bases now.
He's got more stolen bases than Buxton, which we'll get to later how that went.
Yeah.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting, kind of how Rocco played this one with Jax coming in and then Thielbar ending up coming in with the save. I don't like Thielbar being the guy who's pitching that 9th inning, but as we'll talk about later, Duran hadn't been called up yet, so I guess he's the guy. But man, that curveball just scares the tar out of me every single time, because to me, from watching it on TV, which this will be the last time I watch him on TV, but it just looks like it's something that you can identify right away. Like how he just like floats it up there. You're like, man, aren't guys just sitting on this? But every single time, right down the middle of the plate for a strike. So I don't know how it works, but it's been working for him lately. So
he's able to get out of that one, and so the Twins extend their winning streak at that point. And then we go on to game 2, Hoges, and the Twins end up winning this one 6-5 in another exciting game.
Yeah, more weird things happening in this game, too. The White Sox go up 2-0. The Twins kind of booted the ball around in the 4th. There was a liner hit to Santana at first that just bounced right off of his glove where they ended up scoring a run. And originally they called it a hit, which had LaTroy Hawkins and Trevor Plouffe just absolutely stunned in the box. I mean, it wasn't even that hard of a hit liner. And it was funny. My favorite quote from it was, I think Provis was like, well, and there was nobody covering the bases. And Plouffe was like, well, it's so easy. They didn't even think they had to move. And I love this broadcast booth. The three of them are phenomenal together. Plouffe and Hawkins going back and forth with like a pitcher and a guy who played in the game, and they're also they're incredibly charismatic in their conversation. So it's very enjoyable to watch. I'll be honest, I'm still not used to Provis over Bramer, and maybe I never will. I mean, it's honestly been a little surprising to me how much it's kind of thrown me, but I'm sure I'll get used to that eventually. It still feels like I'm watching it and listening to the radio somehow, and it kind of messes with me. But I love those three in the booth.
It's funny because Provis sounds different to me too than he did.
Yes.
Like I tune in and I'm like, at first I'm like, did I click the wrong feed? Is this the White Sox guy? No, this is Provis. It's like he's changed his voice just a little bit for TV, or the microphone picks it up differently.
I'm glad you said that. That's exactly how I feel. It just doesn't sound like him, which is it's just weird. It's jarring.
Well, in any case, the Twins do, of course, get back in this game with RBI base hits from Castro, who had a triple. He had a great series. And Kyle Farmer, who also had a pretty good series with a double, helps the Twins tie it. But the Twins give it right back. Danny Mendick homers off Funderburk. And so the Sox take a 4-2 lead. But then, again, the Twins, and in the top of the 6th. So they got this double steal, Hoges. And it seemed like from there, the White Sox kind of got wise to it. But Kepler steals second, and they try to throw him out. And Jeffers just kind of waltzed home to make it a 4-3 game.
That's little league stuff. Like, this is happening all over the major leagues right now. Guys keep stealing home. Like, I don't know how that happens. Like, it's baffling to me. And Jeffers almost looked surprised. Like, he just kind of just waltzed on home as they threw down to get Kepler.
Clever girl.
I was waiting for that one. I was waiting for it.
Well, then in the 7th, it looks like the Twins might be able to get even again. Buxton is hit by a pitch, and he was thrown out stealing second. And I want to come back to this a little bit later, because I'm not totally sure that maybe he hadn't aggravated an injury earlier in this series, and maybe we just saw the final straw of it. He looked safe, though, that said, but the Twins' challenge failed. It seemed they didn't quite have the angle. But it's in the top of the 8th when the Twins were able to finally break through. Correa singles in Margot, who had come in running for Jeffers, and then Trevor Larnach, Mr. Clutch, comes in, singles in Correa, and so the Twins have a 5-4 lead.
Well, and even Correa getting to second, I like how Plouffe was talking about like his awareness in order to get to second based on where that throw was going was just phenomenal, because he could tell right away that since the guy missed the cutoff guy and it went over, there was still a play at the plate, but if you throw that ball on a line, there's a chance that Correa thinks it's going to be cut and doesn't immediately go down to second. I really liked that insight from Plouffe there, and hey, it's that championship culture with Correa just knowing what to do on the base pass. It's so good having him back on this team.
I want to build a championship culture.
But bottom of the eighth, this is a moment we'll talk about a little bit later too. So Sands actually comes in to pitch with the lead here. Gives up a home run to Benintendi, who feels like he's been playing against the Twins forever. Him and Robbie Grossman. Hoges, these guys, it's like they're always out there. It's like the Matrix or something like that with like the Agent Smith. Like he's everywhere.
It's one of those guys too where I swear I've looked up his age probably 35 times, and every single time he's way younger than I thought he was. Like I'm expecting to see some 70-year-old dude out there now, and he's still just in his 30s.
I'm not dead.
We've gotten so much play out of that sounder. We talk about people's ages a lot.
Well, because we're old. Like, I don't know about you, but I am very, very happy to keep Caleb Thielbar on this team because he is one of the few guys that's older than me. I guess I don't know how old you are exactly, but I'm still alive. I wouldn't be the oldest yet.
I am 40, so I need Nelson Cruz to still be on this team, I think, unfortunately. And Carlos Santana's close. I think he's 38. In any case, doesn't matter because in the top of the ninth, Buxton walks again. Margot singles him to third. And then Kepler again comes through with the game-winning hit. Just a sac fly this time, but that's enough to give the Twins a lead. And we get to see Jhoan Duran come back in. He gives up a single, but there's then a couple ground outs that were nearly double plays, and then finally gets fittingly a strikeout for his first save. And then he did this new celebration where he's like taking a picture of the team or something like that.
And did you see? So they interviewed Vasquez about it after the game, and they were like, "Why did Duran have to take the picture?" And Vasquez, like without skipping a beat, was like, "Well, he only played one inning. Like the rest of us played the whole game, so he had to take the picture of the rest of us." But the one thing about scoring there in the ninth with Kepler hitting that sacrifice fly, and it feels like it's been a theme. And granted, they're playing the White Sox and the Angels. I get that. But walks have haunted opposing teams. The Twins have taken a lot of walks. They've been patient, and those runs have come around to score. And they've moved guys over. They've gotten hits when they needed to. And that wasn't happening at all at the beginning of the year. So, yeah, you're playing a bad team, but that's what they needed to do in order to fix that slump. And they're doing it now. And they're making teams pay for walks, for errors, for that kind of thing. And I think that's the biggest thing that's changed with this team.
Yeah, in this series, 3 walks in game 1. They also had some hit by pitches in here as well, so that kind of counts. 4 walks in game 2 and then 7 in game 3, so certainly making them pay, which is a good segue into game 3. Hoges, another Twins win. This one looks more definitive than it was for most of the game. They win this game 10-5 with many thanks to Paul DeJong at shortstop there.
Yes. Oh, I loved that. Watching that, it was just so beautiful how he just ran right over the ball, and there we go. But yeah, the White Sox get up early again, 2-0 in this game again, and right away in the first, but you just never felt like the Twins were out of it. It's just like, this is what we do. We're fine.
Well, and it's in the top of the second where the worry comes because Byron Buxton comes up lame trying to steal second. Never really actually even tries to slide or anything like that. So he leaves the game with right knee soreness. Now, as I looked at him walk off though, Hogue,
I was going to say, David would be so angry with me if I didn't ask you how you felt about his emotional response to the injury on what the severity is. So here it is.
Thank you. I'm glad you asked. So he didn't slam his helmet. You know, there was no yelling. If anybody was yelling, it was the umpire who I think was yelling for Buxton to get off the field or something like that.
Plouffe was not happy about that at all. I'm surprised the players didn't get a little bit more feisty with that. Like, because it was clear he was hurt right away. Like,
right.
It was definitely not like a sulking that he got thrown out because he pulled up lame before he didn't even slide. But yeah.
Weirdest thing. So we didn't really get a substantial update other than right knee soreness. Now that was the knee that he had surgically repaired in the offseason. We'll see, if my theory is true, that this was something that he was bothered by earlier in the series, and this was maybe the last straw. That makes me hope, Hoges, that it's not like a worst case scenario, like it's just something sore. But should we be super concerned about right now Buxton's health?
I'm just a pessimist with his injuries, and those are the injuries that scare me so much when there's just like nothing happened and it's a knee. And then him not being available to the media after the game today, I thought was a little concerning because you're right. He didn't like have that like really visceral reaction, but like I've never torn an ACL, thankfully. But sometimes when those guys have that stuff, they just kind of know right away. And I don't know. I'm
not superstitious, but I am a little stitious.
I don't feel good about it. As we should note, they didn't make any roster moves today. They didn't have to because tomorrow is an off day. And Austin Martin is in fact playing in St. Paul tonight. So there was some debate about whether or not they would pull him out of that game if they wanted him to get ready. But I mean, the Twins are in Minneapolis on Friday night, so there's no reason to have to do anything tonight. So I don't know. I'll feel a lot better when they come out with it, but hopefully it's just, like you said, some soreness that he may have tweaked earlier, and he just knew that was the time to get out of the game.
I'm less optimistic now, Hoges, after what you said, because that was a very sensible response. And he's not Royce Lewis, right? Because Royce Lewis came out and was like, cheerio Royce, like when he got hurt in that first game. In any case, the Twins are able to get a run back in the top of the third. They're down 2-0, but Castro triples again. Vasquez grounds out to get him in. Again, doing those little things. Tommy Pham homers to make it 3-1 Sox in the bottom of the third. Alex Kirilloff hits another home run, acknowledges Plouffe in the booth, and I think he did this last year when he hit an opposite field home run. I want to say it was against the Oakland A's. But
I think it was.
That's interesting that he's like Plouffe is having an effect.
Well, yeah, the whole thing is like he sees 11:11 on his phone when Plouffe's like in the locker room or in the clubhouse, and he goes, "Hey, Kirilloff, you got to do it again." And it's happened twice now. Like, it's pretty phenomenal. Like, I love it. I love that they've got those interactions.
Bottom of the fifth, Robbie Grossman, who we talked about, doubles in a run. But then in the sixth, the Twins tied up with, oh my gosh, some walks and an error. Now, somebody was running in front of him. I want to say it was Trevor Larnach, and it looked like he did a little stutter step to try to get in his way. But this is a major league shortstop on a ball that's not hit that hard, and it goes just right through the wickets. And DeYoung's reaction, you did kind of feel bad for the guy.
Yeah.
Like, he was so mad at himself, but this was the most White Sox moment ever.
Absolutely. And then the wheels kind of came off. The Twins end up putting 2 more in the 7th off of Kepler RBI and a Miranda RBI, and then Miranda gets a double in the 9th. Jeffers doubles in the 9th, and Castro knocks in another one in the 9th to put them up by 10-5, which was great because the Twins had Duran warming up, and we thought that maybe they would have to use him back-to-back, which wouldn't have been ideal just coming off the IL. So if there was one game this series to not win by 1, this was a good one to get those insurance runs late.
And then before we move into the Puckett's picks, Ober gets the win. 6 innings, 6 hits, 4 earned runs, 3 strikeouts. And again, Twins weren't striking out a lot of batters this series, but it didn't matter. And Hoges, let's go on here to a very positive Puckett's picks winner segment.
Catch 'em all, Kirby Puckett!
Puckett's Picks winner.
I was so happy to see Ryan Jeffers hit that, what turned out to be not necessarily a very meaningful 2-run double, but that gave me my first Puckett's Picks victory since the beginning of the year. So he won it for me with 8 points. The listeners took Santana, who had 5. David took Kirilloff, who had 4, and Buxton had 4 as well. We'll get to the tiebreaker a little bit later. I don't get the bonus point because Castro actually had a team high 12. He's the 8th player to lead this team in scoring here this season. Just testifies to the variety here that we've had so far out of this team.
Yeah, it's a little bit funny because at the beginning of the year, because everyone was just playing bad, like, so there wasn't whatever, we're getting like 3-point winners. Now it's hard to pick a guy because this whole lineup is producing right now. So yeah, I'm happy that you got the win. It was time. You needed one to move back into that win column again. But I liked what you and David were talking about last time. It's been fun this year. I mean, clearly there's a clear step above the rest of the four of us picking every single time here, but it's close, and I like that. I like the competition. The battle for second is phenomenal. It's going to keep me riveted all year long.
Yes, you are ahead, 4.5 points for you. I'm actually now in second place with 2.5, and then David and the listeners each have 2. All right, let's go on here to our next segment.
Beast versus Bench.
Is losing fun? Is losing fun?
This is weird for me, actually, because you didn't pick your Puckett's Picks winner.
Well, I didn't think he was the most crucial player in the series. He had a couple timely hits for me.
Well, so this is the best part because I am going to pick your Puckett's Picks winner as my beast. Again, I talked about this when I was on last time. I'm looking at this a little bit more holistically. I was trying to go through the box score, and there's so many guys that you could pick. You could pick Castro. He had a phenomenal series. You could pick Kirilloff. He had a phenomenal series. You could pick Larnach. He had a phenomenal series. But none of these guys had more than 2 hits in a game. Miranda had 3 hits in one game, but didn't play in game 1, I believe. So it was very, very difficult to pick in a very good way because they got timely hitting up and down the lineup. I went with Jeffers for the sausage. I think the sausage is what has turned this team around. His leadership just in general, like kind of knowing the team needed that pick-me-up. I go back to what I said before when he changed his swing, said he was going to do his 2-strike swing all the time because he wanted to limit the strikeouts. Like this guy is leading, and in a very like vocal way, it seems like, in this clubhouse for a young guy and a catcher. And I'm really appreciative of seeing that. So that's who I went with.
last leader who was a catcher, Hoges. I think he's got to be a guy that we like a lot.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good right there.
I think his number might out retired in left field and out at target field. So I think we know who that is.
So I thought about Castro because Castro had a couple big hits, but I went with Max Kepler, who 3 times in this series gave the Twins a lead with a hit late in the game. And so for that clutchness, I picked him. It is great to have him back in right field. He is solidifying this lineup, which is a weird thing to say, but he is the veteran on this team.
And none of his hits are hard hit, it seems like, this year, right? Like every single one is just like a dribbler that somehow makes it through. Like if they still had the shift, he'd be batting like .057 and we wouldn't be talking about this at all, which maybe making me rethink it a little bit that having the shift banned is a good thing for the game of baseball. But yeah, he injected a lot of adrenaline into this team with him getting called up. And you're right, he just gets a hit when he needs a hit.
As for my bench, I went with Simeon Woods Richardson, who, if he's trying to hang on to this 5th spot in the rotation, I know the Twins don't have a ton of options, but going 3 2/3, 7 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and just 2 strikeouts in game 2 is probably not enough to do that. I don't know. I mean, do you think that how many more starts do you think he could endure like this before they would make a change?
He still only gave up 1 earned run in that outing. Mm-hmm. Like, granted, you want him to get a lot farther than that, but I don't know who the other option is. I did see that David Festa had a really good outing out in AAA. I don't know if they want to go that deep, that fast yet. So I think he's earned himself a few more starts. I haven't seen how Varland is doing down there yet, but he's had 1 really good start. So I think he's earned himself a few more.
Who do you have on your bench?
See, I wanted to yell at David for doing this last week because he didn't put anyone on his bench. And I don't have anyone I want to put on my bench. Like, it's hard to pick on any of the pitchers. I think Simeon Woods Richardson is the biggest one that you can pick on. And even then, it clearly wasn't costly. And it wasn't the worst outing in the world. I was thinking Farmer right away, but he ended up having a pretty good series. He got a double in game 2, and he got a hit, his pinch hitting today. So I'm going to leave the bench blank. You know what? I'm going to give these guys a solid thumbs up and go get them in the next series. No one's on the bench.
Well, we've got some positive things to say here about Rocco, so let's go there.
Rocco's Rewind.
I think you should go ahead and go first. It's kind of a revisiting of the beast.
Yeah, see, this just feels weird again. Like, why am I so happy right now? This year started off so rough, but I really appreciated Rocco keeping Kepler in against some of the lefties. And he was able to produce and get hits. Like, we've talked about it. When your options off of the bench are not getting hits at all anyways, sometimes it's best to just leave a guy in there and have him take some hacks. And I like that change, although there still is those situational hitting where it's good to get those guys up. I like him trusting guys, and I think it instills some confidence in them when they can go on the offhand and try to get a hit against a pitcher that maybe that matchup isn't as advantageous. Sometimes it's okay to just be like, I think my guy's better than your guy, and I like that. I think it helps the players.
And that's happened, with other guys, Kirilov being able to stay in, Larnach even being able to stay in. I like that, and it actually relates to mine. I heard this on the radio. I think it was Chris Atterbury talking about it, game 2, and he said it's actually Max Kepler who has started so on the games where Max doesn't start, he knows so well that Rocco's going to use him at some point.
Hang on a minute. We could use a pinch.
That he actually starts his pregame routine like an hour and a half later than normal so that he's ready for like the 4th or 5th or 6th inning when he gets called in, because it's not like these guys are just getting 1 at bat. We're seeing guys get 2, sometimes even 3 at bats after being pinched. And I found that really interesting, but this is different. This is not the baseball of our childhood.
No.
Where you used a pinch hitter, it was like Randy Bush coming in to hopefully get a game-winning hit in the 9th or something. Like, these are almost like hockey shifts in a way where you leave all of your spare lefties on the bench and then you bring them all in when they shift to the righties. It's an interesting tactic that the more that I see it, the more I think I'm okay with it. I still don't like it if he does this in the 2nd or 3rd inning, but it certainly gets everybody into the game. And I would wonder if it keeps guys fresher over the course of the year, because maybe it's the opposite, because you never really get a true day off.
Well, we talked about it a little bit last year. Like, they had such a cold start, and then guys started doing what you're talking about Kepler doing, where you're getting ready before knowing that you're going in the game. And they said a lot of them started doing that in the second half of the season last year, and that's when the offense picked up. I think ultimately there's a happy medium between what we're both talking about. Like, if a guy's hot, like Kepler's been hot, leaving him in there, that's okay. That's okay to have a couple of those at bats, but still the numbers don't lie, and generally it is the right call to pinch hit a guy. But I do like the gut every once in a while where you're just like, no, you know what? This guy is batting 400 over his last 3 games. I don't care if he's facing a lefty. I'm keeping him in there.
Which is weird because I didn't think Rocco had a gut. I thought he was just all about the metrics and all about the sabermetrics. And here he is, like, doing some good old-fashioned baseball managing.
I think he was getting a little too cute with it. And I think he maybe realized that. Like, sometimes you just let the boys play.
All right, let's go on here to the Minnesota moment.
Minnesota moment.
I already talked about this a little bit, but I went with Kirilloff hitting the home run in the top of the 5th today in Game 3. The whole thing with Plouffe was just awesome. I love how Plouffe calls his shot. Like, to be honest, we try so many times in our text thread to call a home run, and we're getting to the point now where even if it does happen, it's like, well, you're like 1 for 35, so congratulations. Plouffe's 2 for 2 on this whole 11 for 11 thing with Kirilloff, so I respect that. It's sweet. And I love the little point up there, too, when he does when he's rounding third too. It was awesome. It kind of summed up the series a little bit for me too, which I always try to pick my Minnesota moment, something that did that. And it was like the White Sox taking a lead and then us getting a timely home run, being back within 1, and you just feel like they're going to come back and win this game. A, because their bullpen is just garbage over there, and B, because this team has confidence now. They're going to get hits when they need them, and they did again today.
Yeah, and another confidence boost is I went with Duran's return in Game 2 because it solidified the back of the bullpen that you could see was kind of starting to slip just a little bit. It felt like maybe some of these guys were almost getting, I don't want to say overworked, but they needed the lockdown closer to be back. And to have a guy at the back of the pen that throws the way that he does. And I've seen some of those overlays with his off-speed pitch and his fastball where they're coming, like they look like they're coming down the same tunnel.
It's
and
scary.
Then they go to opposite corners. I don't know how you hit that.
No.
And
I don't know
you
hit it anyways, but yeah, when they look the same, I don't get it.
So to have him back there stabilizing this group makes everybody better because now we can see Stewart maybe even in the 6th if they need to. It's just it gives us that depth at the back end of the bullpen that is going to be necessary, especially when they start playing better teams.
Absolutely. And I think this was 12 games in a row or something that they'd played right now. So it was really good timing to be able to have him in there because we didn't have many more options at the end of that game there. Like if we wouldn't have had Duran, I mean, I don't even know who they would be throwing out there. Rocco's having to stretch guys for longer than an inning. So yeah, it was huge that he came back. It's really exciting to see him touching 102 on the radar gun and everything because there was some concern about what he was going to be like when he had that first rehab stint in AAA. But yeah, I'm pumped that he's back, that he's healthy. He's that guy when he comes in, you're like, the game's over. It's over.
Well, let's go on here. Maurer's musings.
I just don't know how it can get any better.
Maurer's musings.
I'm going to let you again go first, Hoax, because when I get to ask mine to you, I need to grab some popcorn. So you better ask yours first.
Podcast might be over when we do that one. So my question is, it seems like between Buxton, Lewis, and Correa that if we're lucky, we're only going to get 2 of them healthy at once. And maybe, David said, maybe we get all 3 all in time for like a World Series run here at the end of the year. But my question for you is, if you can only pick 2 out of those 3 for the regular season at any given time, who would you pick?
Correa for sure, because I think we saw again the value of his defense at the most important defensive position on the baseball field. It is really hard right now because the way that Buxton plays center is so valuable, and you see that when he's not playing center. But I kind of think I'd rather have Royce Lewis right now, and the swagger that he brings and the Kirbiness. I mean, like, it's just there, and Byron doesn't have that, and that's not a slight against Byron, but the injuries and the inconsistency of his availability. And I know that the other guy I'm talking about has not been consistently available either. But even to what we talked about earlier, with Royce is out there after an injury and he's talking to the media and he's gregarious, and Buxton is just, we don't know, I guess, his motivations for why he didn't talk to the media, but he didn't come out and say anything. And so I miss that. And I think over the course of a 6-month season, you need guys with the swagger to be around.
Yeah, and I think he's had that at points when he's been producing, but like even this year, his numbers aren't like jumping off of a page. And granted, we have 2 Royce Lewis at bats, so grain of salt with all of this. But I think I agree with you too. He's batting 1,000 with a OPS of 2,000 or something.
It's amazing, amazing.
I think that projects to 800 home runs throughout the whole year.
It's incredible. Yeah, I mean, a home run every other at bat.
I would pick exactly the same, and pretty much for the same reasons as you, and I would waffle on that Lewis Buxton one for a while, but I agree perfectly with everything you said.
So, Hoax, this is the moment that you get to explain because
let's go.
Honestly,
Here we go.
this Comcast Bally Sports North thing, doesn't affect me. I still got to watch the game on MLB. This is the one positive of being outside of the market, is that I get to watch games no matter what for $100 and something a season.
I get MLB TV for free, because I'm a season ticket holder. Does it benefit me at all to watch the Twins? No, it does not.
So I guess I have to ask the question.
I don't even know if I can let you.
I'm just going to
I'm ready to stand up over here right now.
Please attempt to be a gentleman.
So, Hoges, what do you think of the Comcast Bally Sports North feud?
This is so frustrating to me because the Twins put out a statement today that made it sound like they have no idea that this was coming. And for those of you who have been living under a rock, you can no longer watch the Twins if you have Comcast right now. And the part that bugs me the most is at the beginning of the year, especially when Provis made his move from radio to TV, they promised we're going to have more exposure to all of Twins territory because right now they're only reaching about a third of their listeners that they could reach through their local broadcast. That was one. The second one was they were going to offer a streaming service, which part of that streaming service is to reach more people. That's just how it works. Neither of those happened at all. Then they said, we don't have a TV contract. We're going to cut payroll by $30 million. So they did that. Then they got the same TV contract, not for the same amount of money. We know it's less, but we don't know how much less. Back with Bally Sports, who they know is fighting Comcast. They've been doing this for years. This is not new. I knew about this forever. So they they go back to them. They don't raise the payroll, even though they're clearly making more money. So they pocketed whatever that was because they went in thinking that they weren't going to get anything this year. And now we're in this absolute disaster. And it happens in the midst of a 10-game winning streak when this team has just been horrible. So this fan base just keeps getting repeatedly kicked in the crotch by these owners who they need a new PR guy. I don't know how you can possibly screw this up so much. And their statement is just we hope these two guys work it out. No, you are directly responsible for it. Where's the whole the buck stops with me stuff on this? It frustrates me to no end. And Twins fans, I've encouraged you, if you know what a VPN is, now is the time to look into that. My goodness. Here's the thing. I love this team. I will continue to love this team. I'm not going to be one of the guys who is I'm going to get rid of my season tickets because this ownership is too cheap. I'm not. I love this team too much. I love the players. But I hate that ownership group. I've tried defending them when they went up and they started hey, we're more of a mid-market team. We're going to start spending over $100 million. They picked it up. But this has just gotten to be ridiculous. Specifically this season, you finally make the playoffs and win a game and a series. You have your whole fan base excited. And then this whole disaster of a TV contract culminating in this. And now I pay a ridiculous amount for Comcast. And the only reason I do it is for the Twins and the Timberwolves. And I'm getting $8 back a month now because I don't have access to Bally Sports. It is infuriating to no end.
Fans want an ejection. There it goes. And that was Gardy's gripe.
That was one of those where the manager's going out there and that he's going to get tossed. The $8 bit, but we should also point out, I think Dustin Morse sent a tweet. He's the PR guy for the Twins, and he had some very glowingly positive tweets right now, and it was I don't know that Twins fans are all that happy right now with the Twins organization.
He ended it with, come see us at Target Field. So the comments predictably were well, that's the only place I can see him right now, so I might have to. And I love Dustin Morse. He's a Badger, too, so I got to support my Badgers.
Yeah, of course.
But, my goodness. Yeah, that one, I'm sweating right now. I'm a little upset. I channeled my inner David on that one.
Well, I think now that you're calmed down a little bit, we have some positive things here in the series grades.
Series grades.
I love my metrics here. This has been working well. So the advanced retreat is very easy when the team keeps sweeping. So I mean, because they didn't win by as much, it doesn't matter. That's still 10 out of 10. Now, the well-played baseball, I'm going to quibble with one thing. And it's the 3 times that they're getting caught stealing. Because the White Sox are not great at holding runners. This was pointed out by some of the broadcast crews. The only caveat would be here is if we find out that Byron Buxton has indeed been dealing with a knee injury, because he was caught stealing twice, which is very un-Byron Buxton. But other than that, they had some great plays. We didn't even talk about, but the tag out from Castro to Correa to Jeffers at home, where Jeffers, leans back and clips the foot of the base runner. I mean, it was a beautiful thing to watch. They're playing well, and that's what makes me think they can sustain this even against better competition.
Have you ever seen an infielder that has perfected like the bounce throw and still throwing at like 92 miles per hour either? Like, that was wild.
It's perfect. And they made the point, I think it was on a different play where Castro bounced something to Santana, but like to do the bounce well makes the job easier. But as the catcher, that's a different animal, right? We saw Vasquez like, run and hide from a ball that Julian was throwing at him earlier this year. So to see what Jefferson can do.
He kind of matrixed it a little bit. Like he like caught, like you said, he kind of caught it and like fell backwards and made the, I mean, that was a phenomenal play.
I'm telling you, this guy, he's such a smart player.
He is.
So to finish my grade, it's a 9 out of 10 there, but 19 out of 20 is still an A. I assume you agree.
I did give them an A. I was feeling like a little bit sassy going into today. Like both of those games were pretty ugly. The White Sox kind of gift wrapped it with all the walks, all the errors, not very well played baseball. So I was thinking about maybe being like a David and giving them a B+, even though we got a sweep, but I'm giving them an A. I'm giving them an A. It was a full-on sweep. Today was nice to just get a little bit of a butt whooping there at the end, and I'm feeling good going into Boston.
All right, a couple things to talk about here as we look around the league.
I don't know, Jack. It looked like Herbeck pulled him off the bag.
Herbie's headlines.
This is a sad one to me because it's hard to not like Mike Trout. He stuck with the Angels when Shohei didn't, when teammates like Anthony Rendon don't even want to be there, right? And Mike Trout's still out there, but he tears his meniscus in his knee earlier this week. He's going to miss some time. Now, he says he's going to come back in 24. I'm a little skeptical because, if the Angels are out of it, which undoubtedly they will be without Mike Trout, but you want to see the best players in baseball still be able to play.
Yeah, and like so many people have talked about how like he's getting knocked off of his perch now as being the number one player in baseball. Like you look at like the top 100 that they ranked, and he was like 17th on there. And this year he started off so strong. Like his batting average was a little bit lower, but his OPS was in the 800s. He was leading the Major League Baseball in home runs. It was kind of like, hey, I'm still here. I'm still producing. I think it's awesome how he clearly doesn't want to leave LA. Like I like that loyalty, even though that team hasn't been great. And this stinks. This stinks as fans of baseball to have him out with another injury. And these last few years have been brutal for the guy. Like you have to feel for him, and you feel for baseball fans because he's fun to watch out there.
An 11-time All-Star. Just incredible, with a lot of years left in his career still, hopefully.
Well, and it's wild because 5 years ago, you probably would have said this guy's going to go down. I mean, he could have gone down as one of the top 5, 10 baseball players ever, and he still is going to be a Hall of Famer, but it just stinks that this has been kind of the tail end of his career when he was still in his prime, and you just want to see him healthy again.
Another guy that I don't know that we have quite as much sympathy and sadness for is Jose Abreu. So the Astros optioned him at this point, and I guess he's got, a $19 million contract? Yeah. I don't remember all the rules. I don't think anybody's going to claim him, but he accepted it. Only one extra base hit this entire season, but how do you feel about this?
A good riddance. Like with the White Sox was awful. Him with the Astros in the playoffs last year was awful. I am happy to not see him in Major League Baseball anymore. But it is wild because they optioned him down to their spring training facility, so he's not even with the AAA club. Like they didn't even say A. I'm assuming it's their A team, but they just said spring training facility. So it's kind of wild to just see that happened. And I'd be fine if I don't need to watch any more Abreu home runs against the Twins in the playoffs. Like that would be okay with me.
That's like where they sent Miguel Sano. I think
right?
like it's like another level of it's like baseball purgatory down there in Florida.
But the beautiful thing is we might not have to worry about the Astros at all in the playoffs because apparently they're terrible now, which is
apparently. We'll see. They're not White Sox bad, but they're not great. Well, Hoges, we need to go on here to Puckett's picks for the Red Sox series.
And we'll see you tomorrow night. Puckett's picks.
The listeners are going to take Ryan Jeffers. Now, next up is going to be David because he picked Alex Kirilloff, and he had 2 strikeouts. Buxton had just 1. And so David will pick next. He's going to pick Kepler. So that leaves you, Hoges, to pick, and then me.
I feel like we should have something about, like, if your guy pulls up lame running into second base, you get to pick first the week after.
Yeah. Like a bonus point or something.
Yeah. Man, I'm going to go Trevor Larnach. I think Rocco's going to actually let him hit a little bit more. He's going to see that the guy's hot, and he's going to keep him in. So I'm going with Larnach.
I think I'm going to go with Willie Castro. I like what he's doing right now, but he steals bases, right? So there's a few points there. I don't know why, but I feel like, I know why. He had 12 points last series, so I can't pretend. But I'm going to go with Castro. I'm going to leave Correa out there.
We talked about at the beginning of the year, like Correa, Lewis, and Buxton are going top 3 if they're healthy. And Correa did great in this series, especially today. Like he was getting on base, he was getting RBI. Like, it's crazy that no one picked him. But, like, that's what's so good about this team right now. I think you could almost throw a dartboard at it, and you can't really go wrong with who you're picking for Puckett's picks now.
Well, now we get a day off, which I think, I don't know. I don't love days off as a baseball fan, but I think the Twins need it just to kind of recoup. Hopefully get some good news about Byron Buxton, but we'll be holding our breath. Hoges, thank you for joining me, and with that, I think I'm going to send us out. Folks, if you like what you hear, please tell a friend. You can follow us on X at Min for the Win. You can find our Min for the Win Facebook page and Instagram page. Make sure you are subscribed to the podcast on your favorite platform so you're notified when new episodes are available. And if you'd leave us a rating or a like, we'd greatly appreciate it. If you'd like to support the show further, you can find us on Patreon. Links in the description. Thanks for listening, and as always, go Twins. That'll wrap up another episode of Min for the Win, a podcast hosted by David Kuvas and Dan Thompson, two avid fans who appreciate well-played baseball, especially when it's done by the Twins. Thanks so much for listening, and as always, go Twins.